it's going to connect, like you said, to the Greenway. And one of the best things, I think, in terms of Huntersville, certainly one of the oldest, but built before the British even came through here in the Revolutionary War. So 100 years before Huntersville was founded. It's just awesome, I think. So we look forward to being able to tell a broader story to the community, and one that we think will impact more people and be more interesting to more people.
The request that we had is the same request we've had in prior years, which really is the operational budget, but it's my understanding there may be some opportunity for grant money out there for some of the nonprofits, and if that existed, we'd love to be able to apply for that as well.
Well, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any questions?
That's 5 minutes.
So, no questions?
You had a question?
No, I'd just like to announce that I am on the board of directors of the U Torrance House. Just want to be transparent on that.
Okay. All right. All right. Next up, anybody here from Ada Jenkins?
I guess no questions.
What?
Are we not allowed to ask questions at this point? I'm just curious. I know we have 5 minutes, but
okay.
it
Come on back.
should be somewhat
Bill
interactive.
or Chris, come on back. Sorry.
And really, I only have one question. If possible, can you tell me how many people were served by your organization in 2020?
How many people were served? Good question. Do we know the...
How many people attended last year or the year before?
It was very few. Again, we had the Junior Leadership Lake Norman, which was 25 high school juniors, 22 high school juniors. We had the Leadership Lake Norman group, which was about 21, and then we had a Boy Scout group come in there, which was probably a dozen, 2 dozen. But the house was closed. We couldn't open it up because of Mecklenburg County, so it was pretty much shut down except for those special tours that we did.
All right. So if I say less than 100, fair.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or thereabouts.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you.
That's it.
Maybe send the 2019 attendance numbers too.
Yeah,
Yeah, that'd be a nice comparison. See the 19s and 20s.
that's in the
Okay.
that's in the performance thing that we did.
All right. Any others? All right. Come on up. Ada Jenkins. Sorry about that. Please introduce yourself.
Harold Rice, Ada Jenkins Center, 212 Gamble, Davis, North Carolina. Good evening, board. Like many nonprofits, the Ada Jenkins Center was forced to pivot this year. So brave enough to even hire a new leader during the pandemic, and here I am. However, it brought us an opportunity to look at reassess our program alignment. And with the CARES Act and the support of the 3 towns, thank you so much, we were able to get $750,000 to support families in need with utilities, back rent, mortgage assistance, child care, and most importantly, some mental health counseling for these families. We also was able to open up a pandemic pod for the children. We had about 40 kids this year with the pandemic pod who didn't have access to internet and support at home. We also, with the pandemic pod, was able to put people back to work as well, which was an awesome thing as well. This year, we were bold enough to have not 1, but 2 VITA sites, volunteer income tax assistance. And thank you all for the in-kind donation of the Dale Wood Center. I'm a resident of Huntersville, but when I volunteer at the Dale Wood Center to hear some of the stories when the residents come into the center about what it was, it just warms my heart for them to come in and see that. So thank you for that. When the season is over, obviously, they extended the tax deadline. We'll come back with a financial report. My goal this year is to expand the economic mobility program, which is case management, more so into Huntersville. We're already partnering with Hope House, and we're looking to partner more with Caterpillar's ministry as well, my colleagues in the back here. There is some work we can do collaboratively, especially in the Huntington Green area with case management, so we're looking to expand that, as well as LearnWorks. Again, the pandemic has showed us how to not waste a crisis, and so we're looking forward to expanding services for the children in Huntersville. We also this year were fortunate enough to receive some ESG dollars, Emergency Solutions Grant dollars from the state, to support street outreach and homelessness. We're just trying to prepare for that as homelessness is on the rise. And so we want to make sure that individuals have a location to go to or a person to go to get back into services. And so looking forward to partnering with Angels and Sparrows in that this year. With that, that's all I have as my report. What questions might you have?
Any questions?
I guess I need to disclose I'm the Huntersville representative for Ada Jenkins.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know, but
Thank you.
Mr. Rice, how many people do you think attended your Delwood tax return events?
So we had a goal of 50. We had a soft goal of 50 this year for each site, actually. And combined, we're already at over 150.
Wow.
So now, I have visited both sites, and you have a mixture of people from Davidson coming to Huntersville and vice versa, because I believe we're the only tax site in the state that's doing face-to-face. And so some people still prefer face-to-face, so they're getting in wherever there's an appointment. So we're going to scrub those numbers all the way down to just Huntersville residents, and we'll get that back to you.
Great.
Harold, during this whole pandemic thing, what's the number one request people are coming to you with?
Just financial assistance. We're still going to have, some people are faring a little better, but a lot of our people were the first to be hit, essential workers. And so still just rent as you know, is still a high priority for families, and utilities. They are worried about that going forward. So that's the main thing, rent assistance, so financial assistance.
Commissioner Munger, you have a question?
Same question. Can you tell me the number of people that were served by Ada Jenkins in 2020 and 2019?
Yeah, so, and specifically in Huntersville we serve 33% of our population, and 203 of those families were in our case management program. 55 residents in Huntersville received crisis assistance. 107 were served in our food pantry. 76 was in the dental bus, the mobile dental bus, and 61 were medical patients.
Okay, thank you.
So, yeah.
Commissioner Bales?
I'm sorry?
Commissioner Bales?
Oh, thank you. Just a quick question about the dental bus. Are you continuing that service, or is that being phased out?
That's a great question. It's actually being revitalized at this point. We use some COVID dollars to upfit the bus because it was a tight space. And so that's in the process now to have it COVID ready, if you will. But we also partnered with Lake Norman Community Health Clinic as well as Matthews Health Clinic to be able to bring in staff to move the bus. So now it's more of a three-way partnership, and hopefully the other free and charitable clinics will come along to maximize the use of the bus. So it won't only be used in the north, it'll be used throughout the state.
Because I had heard it might be going away, so it sounds like it's not.
No, it's revamped a bit. So Ada Jenkins Center couldn't absorb the cost by ourselves, and so the best thing to do is partner. And so that's what we're able to do, find partnerships to be able to get the bus back up, because the need is great everywhere. Definitely a gap in services.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Commissioner Hines, you have a question?
Mr. Rice, thank you. I think I heard, what percentage of those that you serve are Huntersville residents?
33%.
Okay, thank you. Now, I believe when I was the rep, it was more like 40. Is there a reason that the numbers have skewed down a little bit?
Not sure. I believe what I was always told was Cornelius was always leading that at 38. Right now it's 38% of Cornelius residents. And so not sure why that dip. I can definitely research that.
That's fine.
I
Yeah.
mean,
And when you talk about prior year, you mean last 2 or 3 years?
Yeah,
Okay.
more like 2 or 3 years ago.
Okay.
Thank you.
I think with that question, it's going to be answered with Caterpillar Ministries speaking, because they've been utilized more over time too.
Commissioner Bales?
The last question that I have for you is, knowing that 33% of your clientele are from Huntersville, what are the challenges that they're facing in order to get to Ada Jenkins, which is in Davidson?
Yeah, I just think it's location, understanding where we are. Again, going back to not wasting a crisis. So when I came on board, our social work staff would have people come to Davidson for social work services. And what we've learned in this pandemic is our social workers need to be in the community. And so their work is going to be remote going forward. And so they're going to meet people literally where they are. So there won't be an issue going forward. If people are living in Huntersville, we're going to come to you. They don't come to the center unless they are fleeing domestic violence or some situation at home. right? And so if they're safe, they're not safe, they can come to us. But if that's not the case, we'll come to them wherever they are. And so that should increase our numbers.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Rice.
Thank you, sir.
Next up, Angels and Sparrows. I think we had a couple people from. Just so you all know, if you feel comfortable taking your mask off, it's fine. You're far away enough, and it's a little difficult for me to hear. I don't know about anybody else, so.
Hi there.
Introduce yourself.
Thank you for this opportunity. My name is Jessica Tucker. I'm the Executive Director at Angels and Sparrows, and you are all familiar with the work we do in the community providing meals to anyone who comes to us without question. But I'm here to talk tonight about how this affects not just the families experiencing food insecurity, but the community as a whole. Food and hunger are fundamental, and it's not something that we as human beings can ignore. Our bodies tell us when we are in need of fuel, and because of the importance of that need, it makes sure we don't forget. We feel hunger pangs, experience headaches, fatigue, dizziness, and the inability to focus on anything else until that need is met. I want you to think about a past camping experience when you didn't have a comfortable bed, or you didn't have power, heat, or air conditioning. While that could be a challenge, as long as you were fed, you could handle it. And now I want you to think about a day when you had back-to-back appointments, or you were caught up in an activity when you couldn't take a break to eat, and maybe you didn't know when you were actually going to eat again that day. Add hours to that feeling, or maybe even days. Would you feel anxious? The human body can handle a lot of stressors, but the lack of food isn't one of them. It's a need we all have to meet in order to survive. And the families we serve feel this anxiety constantly. The lack of access to healthy, balanced meals on a consistent basis creates stress in the body. And in addition to the stress of hunger, there may be numerous other stress factors, such as stretching to pay rent on fewer hours of work. The car breaks down, but there aren't funds to repair it. Or maybe their kids are having trouble in school, or they need to refill their prescription, but they also have the light bill due in a few days. These are all high priority issues for a family, but hunger will trump them all. Limited funds that are available may be better spent ensuring the car is repaired so they can get to work more easily, or work more hours to ensure that the rent payment is available. But could you look across the table at your hungry child and make that decision? Families facing food insecurity are dealing with many challenges simultaneously, and so they make trade-offs. And those compromises can mean cutting down on the quality of their meal, skipping meals, or skipping medications they need, short-term payday loans with high interest rates, or the phrase I used to hear growing up, borrowing from Peter to pay Paul. Families use these coping mechanisms to remove the immediate pain out of a feeling of necessity, but those choices often come with long-term consequences to their health and the physical and mental well-being of their entire family. Food insecurity leads to more food insecurity as they begin to suffer the ramifications of their choices through chronic disease, rising healthcare costs, lost productivity at work, lower earnings, and lower academic achievement among their children. The community as a whole suffers when a family is food insecure. If we do nothing, the cycle continues and the family becomes further entrenched in the cycle. Children will continue to decline in their academic achievement, and the mental and physical well-being of the entire family will continue to deteriorate. And no one wants to see their child's classmate, friend, coworker, or neighbor go hungry, and we don't either. And that's why we rescue food every day from farmers, grocers, and restaurants, and we have systems in place to make sure that that food gets to the families who need it. We exist to interrupt the cycle of food insecurity. We exist to take hunger off the table. The food we rescue is distributed through meals, fresh groceries, and non-perishable food items, and it includes vegetables and dairy products our families may not be able to afford otherwise, so that they can have consistent meals throughout the day and weekend. And we're requesting funds to ensure we can continue to interrupt that cycle and combat the challenge that hits our most fundamental of needs, food and hunger. In 2020 alone, we provided almost 214,000 meals, and while that was at the height of the pandemic, based on the numbers we are serving today, we anticipate providing close to 200,000 again this year. So the funds we request ensure we continue to take hunger off the table so families can focus on recovery. We know that interrupting the cycle of food insecurity is an investment in our community as a whole. It affects children, adults, and seniors. It affects the available pool of employable residents, the physical and mental health and well-being of our neighbors, and it ensures each family we serve is able to contribute to the vibrancy of our community. Because nourished families can take control of their challenges and preserve the dignity of work, ensuring their children are ready and able to learn. And nourished families contribute to the vibrancy of our community. So we thank you for your consideration. Any questions?
Any questions? Commissioner Munger?
Yeah, can you tell me how the number of people served by your agency?
Sure. So in 2019, we estimated it to be around 800 or 900 people. We're thinking we're at probably about 1,200. And the reason these are approximate numbers is because not everyone is willing to share their information. So what we have documented at least gives us, that's what we're estimating.
Do you have an estimation as to how many of those are Huntersville residents?
We estimate about 80% based on the information we have.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? All right. Thank you, Ms. Tucker.
All right, thank you.
Next up, ASC North. Good evening. Please
Good
introduce
evening. How are
yourself.
you doing? Good evening, Mayor Anarella and members of Town Board. My name is Krista Terrell. I am the acting president of the Arts and Science Council, Mecklenburg County's local arts agency. I want to thank you for your trust in ASC to serve the residents of Huntersville by investing in creative individuals and community through a cultural equity lens. For fiscal year 22, ASC is requesting funding from the town of Huntersville at a level of $25,000, and this evening we hope to demonstrate to you why you should consider renewing and increasing your investment in the arts and cultural sector through ASC. Between 2018 and 2021, ASC has invested over $92,000 in Huntersville-based creatives and cultural activity. ASC has also invested dollars, over $400,000, in operating support and capacity building for the Carolina Raptor Center, who is also with us tonight with Jim Warren. ASC's aim is to serve all residents of Huntersville in providing free, high-quality cultural programming that is relevant, resident-informed, and available to all. Examples of needs met with ASC grants can be found through our application materials provided to you, including support for the Hello Huntersville Music and Arts Festival through your Parks and Recreation Department, or for Musical Minds North Carolina, promoting social change in underserved youth through classical music. ASC's Culture Blocks program, which expanded into Huntersville in FY20, brings responsive cultural experiences closer to where residents live, is curated specifically for each block based on resident input. So for FY20, North County Culture Blocks programming included unplugged and live concerts at Huntersville Arts and Culture Center and Veterans Park Amphitheater, along with introductory art classes and live music for community gatherings. We're eager to work with the town to best serve Huntersville residents, including continuing to grow and invest in the relationship between ASC and Huntersville Park and Recreation. The Parks and Recreation Department has applied for and has been granted funding through ASC's Cultural Vision Grants program in each of the last 4 fiscal years. And with Huntersville's clear shared interest in public art, the work of the Public Art Commission Advisory Board, ASC sees an opportunity for collaboration, coordination, and sharing of resources. And working with local residents and responding to their feedback on public art that they would like to see in their community is critical and a well-developed component of ASC's public art process. An example coming up on April 22nd of this year is ASC's Community Engagement Workshop for the Public Art Project at Torrance Creek Greenway near Tributary 2. Residents in the Huntersville community will enjoy artists Kyle Perry and Adam Boonty of Project One Studio to learn about and provide feedback on the artist's conceptual plan for a permanent light installation along the Greenway Tunnel that will increase visibility and safety while transforming the underpass into a lively and active suburban art experience. And you should have received an email early last week from my colleague, Beth Kingaby, inviting you to that experience. Similarly, through the David B. Waymer Recreation Center public art project that was completed in 2019, artist Michelle Detrella Turner held community meetings and one-on-one interviews with Pottstown residents to create Community, a public artwork that's along the rail of the Waymer Center that pays tribute to the Torrance Lido School and the generations of students that it has impacted. So I want to thank you again for your trust. Those are just some examples of the work that is going on. But thank you again for your trust and your consideration to renew and increase Huntersville investment in ASC. I want to also thank you for appointing Nancy Neely and Scott Mumma to represent Huntersville on ASC's North and West Geographic Advisory Council. Both of them have been very involved and provided feedback to us, and even joined us for our latest strategic planning design sprint in February. So again, ASC wants to work actively to really understand the needs and wants of Huntersville residents, and facing the increased demands of arts and cultural programming and investment in Huntersville, we need the support of the town to make that possible. And again, look forward to working with you and renewing your investment and increasing your investment so we can work together. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? Commissioner Munger?
Yes.
This may be a little bit more difficult for you, but how many people were served by your organization in 2020?
So I will say in 2020, in FY20 pre-COVID, we had for Huntersville, we had 441 days of ASC-funded experiences in the Huntersville in the first 3 quarters of FY20 pre-COVID. A lot of cultural organizations as well as creative individuals have had to pivot during the pandemic and put a lot of things, online. But we can get you numbers. Again, Culture Blocks came into Huntersville in FY20, so we can provide you with more detailed numbers. I can follow up with you on that.
All right, thanks.
But yes, 441 days of cultural experiences.
Okay. All right, well, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Next up, Carolina Farm Trust.
Good evening, Mayor Inarella, and good evening to the town board. My name's Zach Wyatt. I'm the president of Carolina Farm Trust. Our mission is to strengthen regional food systems from production to consumption. So we're, as you may have heard, we broke ground on a 20-acre urban farm called Free Spirit Farm over in the Huntington Green area, right off Kearns Road in Hambright. And we're very hopeful that that's going to be a jumpstart of a project to really develop a lot of urban farming in the North Neck corridor. We've already have been talking with a number of nonprofits that are here tonight, really about making Free Spirit Farm not only a town asset, a community asset, an economic asset, and at this point we're really looking to raise money this year to for all the infrastructure that is needed to get this thing up and running. So we are looking to get about an acre or two in production this year, and really kind of getting about 17 to 20 acres actually of that property into production over the next few years. And I would love to actually talk with you guys further, even more on an individual basis, on just kind of more of what we're doing in the long-term plan. But the major efforts of the farm itself is really to reconnect the community back to where our food comes from. We're going to be developing a farm apprentice program to get folks who want to get into agriculture opportunities to do so, and really address obviously food insecurity and food access, and understanding that you might be a hunger hole, but we need to be focusing on nutritionally whole, and we're also going to be focusing a lot on kind of the caste system of food distribution as a whole. I can talk a lot about this, so I just kind of want to just leave it there, and if there's any questions, would love to answer them.
We still have a few more minutes if you want. Commissioner Hines?
Thank you. Sorry I couldn't make the groundbreaking.
Oh,
I
no
heard
problem.
It was fantastic.
Yeah.
Did you all purchase the property? If not, do you lease it and for how long?
We have a long-term lease for 10 years, and we've had long talks with the owners, and they really have no interest of really selling the property. So it's going to be kind of a long-term relationship with them, and it's in the Mountain Island Lake watershed, so there's a lot of restrictions on it already, but we've talked at length about that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
All right, great.
Nobody's been served yet.
I was going to say, they weren't around in 2020, so I can't ask the question.
All right, thank you so much.
All right, Carolina Raptor Center. You didn't bring a bird?
Come on.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, Town Commissioners, staff, and fellow citizens. Show of hands, how many of you know who we are, been to our place, know what we're doing? You guys know that now. So I can just sit down right now because you know what we do. I will tell you that pre-COVID, we were on a roll to go into, we thought 2020 was one of our greatest years. If you're familiar with us, you know we were getting ready to move into our new Quest facility, a partnership that we've done with Mecklenburg County Park and Recreation. And then COVID hit. And so we shut down from the middle of March to the 1st of July. No public, no programs, no nothing. But we still had birds to take care of. About 200 birds were in our care throughout the whole time. We reopened in July, lower capacity, all new ways of doing business. We've gone virtual. Actually, we just created a new episode called Avian Adventures. It's on our YouTube channel. So we've really taken a lot of things and pivoted. I'm very happy to say that we did our first off-site school program 2 weeks ago. Schools are starting to allow us to come back. Visitation's been very, very strong because we all know that being indoors could be a little chancy for folks. People feel comfortable outside, and the Raptor Center's benefited from that. We're here tonight to ask for an investment, particularly looking to the forward. We've been able to sort of get through the pandemic using both CARES Act, PPP, SBA loan, but we're really looking forward now to the future, programming at Quest, programming at our existing facility, and really taking and making what already was a great place to come to a true destination. We just were featured in the Costco Connection magazine as the place to go in the area. The guy actually said, well worth your while to come to the Raptor Center. I've had friends of mine that are Costco members in Arizona and in California all over calling me going, did you know you're in this magazine? Yes, we did. We've been featured as a tour guide for the area, and we see us being a draw, bringing more and more people into Huntersville and having a great place for them to come and experience the outdoors. And I'll be quiet and allow for questions.
Okay, Commissioner Munger?
If I'm reading this right, the number of people served in 2020 was 12,000?
I'm sorry?
The number of people you were able to serve in 2020 was 12,000? Is that
We
correct?
actually, if we see the number of students we saw in 2020 was a little over 4,300. That normally would be about 20-some thousand. We saw about 16,600 visitors. That normally would be over 40,000.
Okay. And do you have any idea what the number of those visitors that are?
I do
Huntersville?
not. We do track that via zip code, so we can pull it up and know exactly who's coming from 28078. We can be able to tell that.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Warren, did you say when Quest was going to be open? I know you mentioned it, and I hate to put you on the spot with the county because they're constantly delaying.
Everybody here with the county? We are hearing May, coming very closely. We have a management team that meets between us, our staff, and the county staff. We're getting the final touches, starting to get the exhibit hall back up to speed. We've already come up with a plan that we've given to the county manager's office, so we're hopeful that we're going to be opening the very first part of May.
Great. All right. Well, thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right. Caterpillar Ministries. Good evening. Please
Hey, how are
introduce
ya?
yourself.
Sarah Fortner, Executive Director of Caterpillar Ministries. It's good to be here. 14 years ago, when Ann Crawford founded Caterpillar Ministries in Huntington Green, crime, drugs, teen pregnancies were rampant, and high school graduations were rare, very rare. Today, crimes and drugs have decreased, teen pregnancy is rare, and high school graduations are skyrocketing. Caterpillar's preschool partnerships in the community, our tutoring program, and our My Path mentoring program with our high schoolers are helping students set and achieve their goals, and college, military, and trade careers are not impossible anymore for these kids. They're common occurrences for our students. We couldn't do what we do without the incredible support of so many in the Huntersville area. There's churches, businesses, charter schools, other nonprofits, 175 volunteers who pour into our kids on a weekly basis. The leadership and the staff of our home schools, Torrance Creek, Bradley, Hopewell, Barnett. We couldn't do what we do without being in partnership with them. Right now, we're tutoring virtually over 110 kids. We're mentoring over 40 of our high school kids. Soon, we'll be pivoting back to in-person. In-person's gonna bring a lot more challenges for us, to be honest, because we've grown during the pandemic. We have grown. We now have 400 kids in our program. 400. But we're ready to go. We are ready to go. We're going to find the space. We're going to keep the volunteers coming, and we are going to help these kids see that their futures are bright. Their futures are bright. And their futures are possible. Their futures are possible. And so we're excited to be here. Thank you for the time and consideration, and we're ready to rock with our kids. Any questions?
Commissioner Munger?
Is number 400 accurate for the number of people served in 2020 by your organization?
It's about 160 families.
Okay.
400 kids, yes. Yep.
And do you have any idea what the percentage of Huntersville residents those people are?
All in Huntington Green.
All of them? Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Well, I wouldn't say all in Huntington Green, all in Huntersville. Yes. We do work with some other families that reside in Deer Hill and a few other places.
And I'll have a comment that, over the course of the last 5 years, it's been an exponential transformation. I think you drive around, people are building new houses. Habitat has 2 new houses in there. There's some other new houses, people, new trailers coming in, cleaning it up. So, thank you.
Anything else?
Nope.
Thank you.
All right. Historic Lata Plantation, is anybody here for that? Oh, okay.
Hi, my name is Kristen Toller. I serve as the board chair of Historic Lata Plantation. Thank you for letting us come tonight. We are very thankful for the town of Huntersville support. We love our community. We are a circa 1800 cotton plantation and the only living history farm in Mecklenburg County. We serve, on a non-COVID year, just over 30,000 visitors a year, 12 to 15,000 of which are school children. We have a very simple mission. Our mission is to bring history to life for visitors of all ages, and we do that through daily tours, special events, summer programs, workshops, and school programs as well. We are, like so many other organizations, on our 3rd field trip season without school children, and we miss them terribly. We, like the Raptor Center, were just able to go into a school a couple weeks ago, a school up in Mooresville, to do an outreach program, and that felt so good. We are also home to historic breeds of livestock, many of which are rare and endangered breeds, and we use those animals in our educational programs to help people understand what life was like in the Huntersville community from the end of the American Revolution through the end of the American Civil War and into the Reconstruction time period. So many of you may have been to Lata. If not, I hope you can join us sometime. The last year has been unusual, just like it has been for everyone else. When COVID hit and we had to close the site, we were 2 days away from what is normally our largest event and fundraiser of the year. So 2 days before that event was to take place, we had to make the decision to cancel the event. And within a week of that happening, all of our spring field trips were taken off the calendar as well because of school closures. So we were closed to the public for 3 months during the calendar year of 2020. And during that time, we continued our mission by creating online videos that are free. They're still online to anyone who has internet access. They're available on our website, lataplantation.org, and also on YouTube. We reopened to the public at the end of June, on a part-time basis, and we were able to reopen to all but, we reopened to 5 days a week by September. We hope to be back to 6 days a week, which is our normal full-time schedule, by the beginning of July, which is the start of a new fiscal year for us. We hope that Huntersville will continue to support us as we climb out of the results of a year of closures and a slow start, getting back to normal. We have been successful at coming up with ways to get people on the site. We still served over 12,000 people on site last year, even though we were closed for 3 months. What we've done is continue to offer many of our normal events to the public. We just had to reduce numbers and pre-sell tickets online with timed entries so that we could do it in a way that worked with all of the COVID restrictions. We just had a huge leprechaun hunt at night in March, which was a great fundraiser for us. It was a way to get families out where they could be separated outside and still enjoy the site. And we had our most successful Easter egg hunt in the history of Lata this past Saturday. We had over 1,000 people out in a COVID-safe way, separate areas of the site at different times throughout the day. And it felt really good to have so many people out enjoying the site and our animals and learning a little bit of history while they were there. I'd be glad to answer any questions.
She said it
Mr. Munger?
several times.
Okay.
I'm good.
How did you do the Easter egg hunt with 1,000 people?
So we sold ticketed time slots all throughout the day, and we had 4 hunt areas. So everything, of course, was outside. So we started people every little bit all day long, and so families would come and go throughout the day.
Well, if yours was as competitive as ours, I'm sure everybody had a great time. All right. Well, no other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, Hope House. Good evening.
Good evening.
Please introduce yourself.
I am Debbie O'Hanley. I am the Executive Director to the Hope House Foundation, located at 15604 North Cross Drive, and now we have 15604 A, B, and C under construction in Huntersville. Hope. What does that mean? It's a gift that's invisible, but yet can be seen. Hope can unify all of us, and at a time when we all feel particularly divided, when the headlines say hope is no longer available, we can change that narrative and join together to provide hope and inspire each other. Hope can be the good news story, the delivery system, and the remedy to hopelessness. Talking about homelessness always leads to 2 things. First, a discovery of the realities within our own community, and second, a sense of how we can make a difference. The Hope House Foundation of Huntersville is where hope is offered to women and children whose lives have been thrust into the despair of homelessness, as women with children are the new faces of this reality. Homelessness is not an identity, but a circumstance, like the circumstance of the homeless veteran now living at the Hope House. We found her living in a hotel after she and her 3 daughters had slept in their car for 6 months. Her circumstances left her hopeless after her career ended in the Army. She served 2 tours as a field medic, and when her service ended, so did her financial security. The faces of homelessness go virtually undetected and acknowledged across North Mecklenburg County, and especially in Huntersville. Until Tent City Uptown was recently disrupted and torn apart, few knew that families were living in such despair. Over 60% of the families living in those horrendous conditions were first-time homeless due to the effects of COVID. And today, our economy and our community is consumed with women and children who are solely responsible for the economic welfare of their children. Perhaps you met her today at the Food Lion or when you were in line at the post office. She's the teacher in your child's classroom that tonight will sleep in her car. Too often, these faces find themselves displaced from their home if they lose their job, their health, and their financial partner, or experience a crisis that deeply compromises their safety. If they're lucky, they can stay in their car. The loss of a home is a crisis for anyone, but especially for families, as a parent must endure the heartache of being unable to provide a secure environment for their children. Without a home, children are deprived of one of the most basic resources required for healthy development. And being without a safe and warm place to sleep, eat, and care for children, being without security of familiar people and a sense of belonging, this is homelessness. Hope, what does that mean? It means that in our community, the Hope House Foundation exists to provide transitional housing and supportive services to the women and children who find themselves in need of opportunity to repair their broken financial safety nets. We receive no government funding and rely on the financial contributions from within the community. That's why we need your help. Our funding request will help us make hope happen for families in our community who live without help and without hope. Together, as community partners, we can help weave threads of hope back into families' life and offer opportunity for new beginnings. With your help, we celebrate a 100% success rate of transitioning our families to employment and housing stability. Our families exit our program stronger, empowered, and enlightened, and with a safety net that has been pieced back together. When you choose hope, you transform the lives and provide safety for over 100 individuals a year who otherwise lived in unsafe conditions. Visible hope can rewrite an ending and rebuild a life, and because of our community's help, we're expanding our program to address housing instability and insecurity in Huntersville. Driven by the need to create a solution to housing instability and the belief that a collaboration strengthens services, the Ada Jenkins Center and the Hope House Foundation have developed a partnership called Hope to Home. This mission is to provide families an imperative solution between economic insecurity and the ability to achieve and maintain housing stability. The Hope to Home partnership serves families faced with issues related to poverty and homelessness. Hope to Home partners are offered a teaching home model in a cottage designed to identify areas of individual growth and assist families in developing the skills needed to live a life of self-sufficiency. We provide coordinated services with a safe and affordable living environment, including a well-organized integration of services that are key to economic mobility. Families who come to the Hope House having lived in crisis can rebuild their lives with 6 months of supportive services and have the ability to achieve their dreams. 3 cottages, appropriately named Grace, Joy, and Faith, are under construction right now, and plans are being written as I speak here tonight for a 3-bedroom model that will be built on the lots gifted to the program for the fall of 2021 from this board. In the next few weeks, we will welcome home more families, just like our veteran family, to a bright new future. The 3 cottages on our property are just the beginning of how Huntersville answered the call to action to address housing insecurity and made hope visible. What's next? The possibilities of what we can do as a unified community are unlimited. We need more hope to help the hundreds of families who tonight sleep insecure. And then, with more hope, someday, some night, she won't have to look for hope because she will already have found it right here in our Huntersville community. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions?
48.
Longer?
48?
48 direct service, that's who
And
lived
I
in the
assume those are
home.
all 100% Huntersville residents?
100%, yep.
Thank you.
And 125 former residents that came back for service, and 3,782 phone calls of people directed to resources.
I'm glad you pointed out the phone calls, because I know I've sent people to them where the county 211 couldn't help. They're so connected, and I can't even imagine how many people told their friends to call you and you guys helped, so thank you for that.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, last but not least, Roll Hill.
Good evening. I am Jessica Bustamante. I am the Executive Director of Historic Earl Hill at 4431 Neck Road. I am also on the board of the Torrance House and the Vice President of the Charlotte Regional History Consortium, as well as a 2019 graduate of the Leadership Lake Norman Project. So it is not without authority when I tell you that our historic sites, all of them, are quite important to Huntersville. Most of my colleagues up here have talked about the struggles of 2020. I'm going to back us up to 2019 because our flagship event is the Loch Norman Highland Games. It brings between 15 and 20,000 people internationally, mostly from Scotland and Canada, but internationally to this to Huntersville. And we do have a partnership with Visit Lake Norman, to where we are recommending Lake Norman hotels and services to those 20,000 people that come and visit us. Well, in 2019, we had a washout. We had 3 hours of time during the day that we had to be closed because there was lightning in the area. I had to shut down the entire event, send people to their cars, send people to their, to their tents that were tent camping. And so that really devastated that event. So then we move forward to May to our Brewers and Music Festival, which will normally bring about 5,000 people to this area. North Carolina and South Carolina obviously being the primary people, but our third largest attendance is from California to our Brewers and Music Festival. So that's also bringing people to patronize our Lake Norman hotels. And like I said, that's about 6,000 people. That also had terrible weather, and we had to shut down for 2 hours that time for a lightning delay. And then moving forward, we get to our corn maze season, which is not only our largest fundraiser, but it is one of the events that Huntersville families have looked forward to since 1998. And in 2019, our corn did not grow. We were not able to have our corn maze at all. So moving into 2020, we were excited to get back to having Highland Games, and then just about this time last year, we ended up having to call off the Highland Games because of COVID. We weren't sure what the Brewers Festival was holding. We were thinking, well, maybe this whole 2 weeks to stay home will be fine. Ended up having to cancel the Brewers Festival as well. So now we are over a year into not having the regular event income that we are used to having. Now, I will say in 2020, we were able to run our corn maze. We did time slots. We started off at 25 people per time slot, and by the end of the season, with the regulations changing and us learning, our crowd control and how many people we can handle, we were up to 100 people per time slot per half hour, because it's 7 acres of maze, 3 miles of trails. That's an awful lot of space. We were requiring masks. We had hand sanitizer everywhere, and we also introduced a new app to go with our corn maze. Because those of you who've done our corn maze in the past, there would be mailboxes everywhere in the maze, and you'd have to open the mailbox and pull off your puzzle piece, and that's a whole lot of touching things that everything else is touching. So we've now added an app to our corn maze to where you're collecting all those puzzle pieces digitally, and that was not an inexpensive investment, and it does need some improvement, but it did get us through 2020. So that's one of the things that we are needing to improve for this coming season, is that app, to make it actually just function better, but we'd also like to add some additional things to it, and like I said, app development is not cheap. So our corn maze in 2020 did serve over 12,000 people. I don't actually have how many specific to Huntersville, but I do know, like I said, in 2019, we heard from all over Huntersville, where's our corn maze? This is our family tradition that we've been doing. So I could probably, actually, since we did so many digital tickets, like if you were interested in the number, I could probably pull zip codes from those digital tickets. But on top of that, we've been running a 265-acre farm. through this whole COVID thing, we've been shut down besides the corn maze basically for a year now. And 265 acres are quite expensive to maintain. We have 4 Highland cattle that help us manage the grass, but also meat things. We were able to get a PPP loan to help us out. We were able to actually partner with the town over the last summer, and we'll probably be doing it again this summer, to do some town events such as drive-in movies. So that was a way we were able to use all of our space to partner with the town, and that was, we had about 150 cars per movie, and that was mainly Huntersville residents, thanks to the partnership there. One of the other projects that we are having coming up is we're going to build, we have all the pieces and we're getting ready to put in an irrigation system for our corn so that we don't have another year where our corn doesn't grow, because that was the main thing. We planted our corn, the first round didn't grow, and then we planted again. It grew a little bit, and then we had 5 weeks with no rain. And it actually takes 20,000 gallons per acre per week to irrigate a cornfield. So we are getting ready to put in an irrigation system that will manage that. The other thing we lost in 2020 were our weddings. And our weddings are another thing that bring people to this area that wouldn't necessarily come here otherwise, because they have family getting married here. We do partner, once again, with Lake Norman Hotels for that. And so that's something that we're able to get going back again. And we're getting ready to start in on a capital campaign. And our main goal with that is to rebuild and refurbish the Bethesda schoolhouse. That is the African American schoolhouse that sits on our property. And what that allows us to do is to better tell the enslaved history at Rural Hill, which is not something we've been able to do in the past, just because we didn't really have a whole lot of artifacts or other structures to be able to tell that story. So that is something coming up once we get that building restored that we are going to be adding into our educational program, is a better telling of the enslaved history at Rural Hill.
Okay, all right, thank you. Any questions? Well, hopefully you'll have better weather this year. We all hope for that. And
Yep.
Getting people back out there. All right, any other questions? Any comments? All right, well, thank you. And I just want to thank everyone for coming. Obviously, we think Huntersville is one of the best places to live, and you all, in your efforts, make it that way for a lot of people, and we appreciate everybody's efforts. So with that, we'll adjourn. We'll come back at 6:10. Sorry for the delay for those that just joined us. Anybody looking to speak tonight, please sign up for the public hearing if you're here for the public hearing, or for general comments. So, see you at 6:10.